Thanks, and welcome back to my channel, XJW Anonymous. Sorry, I've been kind of away for the last couple of weeks. Been dealing with a lot of stuff, but I'm back, and I have a couple of topics, or one topic that I want to talk about that is pretty important to me, and pretty much it's affecting me right now. So I'm in the midst of being laid off since November 13th of last year, 2023, and trying to find a job as an IT person in this market right now is extremely rough. Now, not going to blame me not having a degree on with not having a degree at all, but let's get into it here. So, for those that may be new to the channel, this channel is primarily focused on, not bashing Jehovah's Witnesses or anything like that, but it is to talk about life after leaving the religion, right? So for me, I was disfellowshipped. If you want to go back to my backstory, you can see a few of my videos that I may link in the description. But for me, this is an aftermath of being a Jehovah's Witness and dealing with some of the things that come with it after the fact, right? And education, secular education, is a big one, right? So for just a brief overview for those that are not familiar with Jehovah's Witnesses or not, but I'll summarize in this one sentence. For the most part, Jehovah's Witnesses, at least when I was growing up in the 90s, 2000s, was that you were encouraged to get into like a trade. So since I've been in computers all my life, since I was a little kid, I've always wanted to do computers. I knew that whatever I did was going to be with computers. So for me, just a tech degree or a certificate in my mind at the time was going to be enough. So the stance of the witnesses has always been get something that you can provide for your family, but the goal is to dedicate your life to serving Jehovah, which is in turn, hey, get the lowest paying job that you can get and take care of your family. Frowned upon if you go to college. So that is the summary of what I was raised as far as Jehovah's Witnesses and education was concerned. To go along with that, basically, the main point of the religion is a spiritual education first, trade or secular education is second. So the feeling of this was that why waste time on secular education when Armageddon is coming? So again, for those that may be new or researching the religion, the Jehovah's Witnesses preach that there's an end of all things coming, and that Armageddon will wipe everything off the face of the earth. Jehovah's Witnesses will still be alive; they'll be resurrected, and why waste all that time and money on secular education? So that's kind of what I want to talk about today, because for me, I'm not a clickbaiter, and my goal of this channel is to talk about things that directly affect me and my friends that have been in the religion, right? So this, on the top of my head, this is one of the hot topics for me, and that's why I wanted to talk about it now. So for me, again, my parents weren't necessarily, or my grandmother, because remember, I was raised by my grandmother. And for the most part, she really didn't push me either way. Ever since I was a kid, I remember the commercials for DeVry University. So in my town, I had a DeVry that was maybe 15 minutes from or maybe 10 minutes from my house. And I've always said, as a kid, like I remember saying at like 14, I've always wanted to go to the DeVry. So my mom kind of supported that. And I did go. I remember like it was yesterday, graduating high school, graduating in June. Back then, DeVry started in July, right? So all my friends were on, on summer vacation while I was starting college, only a few weeks after graduating high school. So that was interesting. But at the time, I just wanted to do something with computers, right? I wanted to get a degree. I believed in getting a degree. But for me, my personal situation was I was bamboozled basically into signing up for a a schooling that wasn't exactly what I needed, right? So I remember talking to the rep for DeVry. She came to the house, real nice, and she signed me up for telecom. What was it? Telecom management, which had nothing to do with computers. But she's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, computers are gonna, you'll be able to work on computers and blah 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 in there." And when I started school, it was definitely not what I expected, and it was definitely not anything related to what I wanted to do. And so I remember going into class, and it was basically, oh, here's a lab, and you get to work. Right, that's basically what I remember. Um, so the biggest things that I remember, growing up is that my grandmother wasn't necessarily a big pusher on, oh, you're just gonna be restricted and I want you to not go to college and all that. But I know a lot of other friends and that I had weren't pushed to go to college, and it was basically like they had these, for all intents and purposes, BS jobs, right? BS jobs just to support themselves. And the goal was always, like, especially as a brother in the congregation, was to get to Bethel, right? That was the echelon. Like, you want to do what you needed to do in the congregation. High profile success in the religion is getting to Bethel, right? So why do you need a college education if you're going to go to Bethel, right? That was always the talk of the town. So my feeling is that this directly affects you as an adult, and I'm going to give you some personal experiences of mine, what I'm dealing with right now, to talk about that. But I kind of want to go back a little bit, right? Going back as a kid, where I remember, in my previous videos, it was always, hey, get baptized first, right? That was always the goal, and you know, one of my first videos was about coming back from the shadows from being disfellowshipped, right? It's been 20 years since I was disfellowshipped, and it all starts with getting baptized, as I said in my previous videos, right? So my feeling is that you get baptized, you start to pioneer, and then you want to get to Bethel. This is as a brother, right? That was one of the biggest things. You progress to get a ministerial servant, and by the time you're ministerial servant, you you know get shipped off to Bethel, or you apply for Bethel and get in Bethel, right? There was never a high talk about college. It was always frowned upon to be going to college. Now, some kids, if I remember, I had a girlfriend at the time going to college and pioneering. So, if you were able to do that, that was, I think it was less pressure. Like, okay, well, you're still going to college, you're still going to meetings, you're still preaching, you're even a regular pioneer, you're doing a lot, right? I think for the sisters, though, it was a little bit different because obviously they don't have a lot of responsibilities in the congregation. So I think that also had a toll on, or had a change of thinking as far as females or sisters went, right? But for the men, because as you guys know, right, in the religion, men, not I'm not saying that I believe in this, right? I'm just saying men are usually the breadwinners. I mean, that goes for any American culture, right? Men are the breadwinners, so they have to have a better job, right? And so for me, I've always wanted to make sure that my family was taken care of, right? Now, at the time I went to college, like I said, right after high school, literally a couple weeks after high school, it was a lot different for me. But like I said, growing up, seeing all my friends, like one of my best friends back then, I won't mention any names. He basically followed in my footsteps and went to a tech school, and graduated, and then we started getting tech jobs. And it's crazy, right? Because I'll pause here. As I said, and this is how serious it was for me, right? Even though I always wanted to go to school, and my dream job, my dream school was DeVry. My grandmother worked at a very high profile university, out here by my house, and she could have allowed me to go to school for free, college for free, tuition, and I chose not to. I chose to do DeVry. I then dropped out of DeVry, and then I went to Chubb. It's like a small, like, not Chubb Insurance, but it's similar. But I went to do a network technician. That's basically what I chose. So instead of choosing a free, it was Rutgers. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Rutgers University, right? I could have went there, and I chose not to. And I kind of regret it now. You know, I try to teach my kids also that there is school is important, right? Now I can get into my beliefs about what kind of degrees and what that. I don't think college is for everyone, especially in IT, but I can get to that later. So anyway, I chose not to go to that school because of how I was raised. Now my dream school was DeVry. I didn't like DeVry, and I transferred out, but I still could have went to Rutgers, but I chose not to. I chose that because, I wanted to better myself. I wanted to be spiritual, right? And, put Jehovah first. And so I chose not to pursue college as I feel that I should have if I had known what I know now, right? So that's why I'm making this video. And not because, I could have went to school for free, but the choices you make earlier in your life definitely affect you when you get older. So, like I said, my friends, a lot of my friends did actually go to school, secular college when I was growing up, and I was given the freedom to choose that for myself as well. So I don't have as bad as a memory of being forced to not be able to go to a secular education if I wanted to. Now I know that some of my friends obviously did choose to not and go to either just a regular tech school or a school that really wasn't going to pay the bills, basically. And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. The other things I would probably say are when you think about practical schooling, like nowadays it's kind of changed, right? Where back then, like before our generation, I'm an '80s baby. Before my generation, an associate's degree was sufficient. Then it turned into a bachelor's degree, and now to me, a bachelor's degree doesn't mean anything, right? Even a master's, like people are getting out of school with masters and still can't find a job. So the feeling that I say now about schooling is different. Now I work in IT, right? My last job, I was a director. Now, because of the tech layoffs and just so much competition out there, it's hard for me to even get in front of a line, a line of interviewees or potential candidates because of there's just so much a mass amount of people applying for every job, right? So earlier in my career, the college degree kind of really destroyed some of my chances. Now it's not such a big deal, and there's two reasons for that, but I'll back up a little bit. When I was early in my career, what I faced a lot of times, like with positions, was that a lot of positions were old school. Generally speaking, some high-paying jobs, a degree was required, right? If you didn't have a degree, they wouldn't even talk to you, right? A lot of schools, law firms, they want you to have that degree. And because I did not have a degree, I could not get those jobs. Now, as I said before, to me, a degree isn't everything, right? And as I grow up, as I have established myself as a manager and a leader, what has happened to me is that I would rather take someone that has the experience versus a degree on paper. To me, a degree on paper just means that you've taken some book knowledge and you've passed tests that say you know that knowledge. To me, I'd rather have someone that's been in the weeds, as it were, on the ground and experienced what it's really like to work. And so when you couple the experience with the degree, obviously that's better. But if we're talking about fresh out of college, just graduated, I rather take the experience over a degree, right? And I think that's a lot of in the IT field. For me personally, we see that a lot. Like most IT guys, we do a trade school, and then we end up getting a job, working through through the different progressions of career. Like a help desk person taking phone calls to like a desktop guy that goes to your desk and fixes your computer, all the way up to manager, right? So in my career, I've done that, right? So right now, it's not a big deal that I don't have a degree. I did start to go back to get my degree back in 2018, but I had to stop because my jobs were just getting too crazy. But that's kind of where I'm at right now in my life. Right now, I am searching for a position. I know that having a degree could help me in a role because as a Jehovah's Witnesses, what I've learned from not going to school, the biggest reason why I think that it is not is frowned upon is because when you go to college, you start having critical thinking, and that's what the witnesses don't want you to start to do. Once you start critically analyzing everything, you're going to probably analyze some of the things in the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses that you either don't believe in or you question that you need answers to. And most of the time, you're not going to get that answer, depending on what the question is related to the religion. So, my thing with that, hold on. Mm, what I would what I would encourage my kids now, as far as being able to pick school or choose what they want to do. Like my feeling is that I want them to feel that they have a choice on where they want their career to be. I really don't, because I've been tainted with being pressured. Um, I want my kids to tell me, and I can assist them to some extent. Like if they like to, like my daughter likes to be in drama, right? But kids nowadays, like they're all over the place, right? For I want to be a cop, I want to be a veterinarian, I want to be a doctor, a nurse, blah blah blah. That never usually sticks for the most part. So for me, I want to encourage them to pursue what they want to do, right? Whatever schooling that they may need, I'll try to help them get to that point. But I rather them choose. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the I wouldn't say discouragement from the congregation, but obviously as a young person, a lot of the congregation members look up to certain individuals to set an example. Um, I would say that I was probably one of those individuals. I think back in the day, I think that if I'm thinking way back, and we're talking, yeah, like 21 years ago, how my friends in the congregation were. I'm trying to think. I don't think anybody, not per se, discouraged me from going, but I feel that there's other congregations. I also think about location wise has this effect, right? So I was raised in the tri-state in New Jersey. So New Jersey, New York, anytime you live in those, it's to me, I think a lot more a lot more sociable to go to college. Especially we have some big name colleges in the East Coast, so colleges always come up all the time, right? So that's one thing that I would say. And I really wasn't discouraged to go, not to go to third party college. I think the long term effects though of the prioritizing spiritual school over a regular school affects a lot of us, right? So I'll tell you about my personal opinion, but I've seen a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, like, we're talking about in their 40s, 50s, 60s. They didn't have a college education, so they had to take these minuscule jobs and, pretty much know. I don't know where everybody else came from, but, I come from obviously a black family. And so savings and, you know, all that kind of stuff really wasn't talked about, except my aunt. My aunt kind of pushed me for that, but I kind of didn't listen. But when you don't plan for your retirement or your future, which is what happens in the Jehovah's Witness world, this has disastrous effects. So basically, I know a lot of older people that don't have any savings, don't have any retirement, and they pretty much have to work until they really can't work anymore because they didn't have that higher education. Now, for me, honestly, I kind of worry about that happening to me. Now, obviously, without going down my financials, right? I was laid off recently, um, and so I think that not having that college education, I think, really affects me because of the critical thinking. Like I have a couple of businesses, but I also think that if I were to have gone to college, my mind would have been a little bit more prepared as far as the entrepreneur side and thinking about just different business ideas that I think I have a problem with now. So my real life effect, I think that affects me a lot, because I have a lot of businesses that I'm trying to get established, especially since being laid off. I have a lot of free time to think about these kind of things. So I think that for me is one of the biggest things that I really regret. I really regret not being able to stay focused pretty much when I was younger, and get into the schooling. Now, you guys remember in my previous videos, I had a daughter very young at 20. So, as soon as I got out of high school, I went to college for 2 years. Pretty much once I got out of that, I was in a relationship and had to have had a baby, right? So a lot of that time was robbed from me because of my choices also, right? But I think if I were to be focused in college, probably wouldn't have went down that other road, right? So that's a couple of things that I feel that I have definitely a problem with. So I guess I've probably been all over the place. A lot of the school stuff is pretty jarring for me, but I think the couple of pieces of advice or support I would probably say is, if you are a young Jehovah's Witness and you're thinking about your college education or thinking about any education past high school, or I would say, even if you're still in school, you need to finish your high school, right? So to me, that goes without saying. You need your high school diploma. I respect people that have their GED, but people out in the world, I mean, it's a little bit more accepted now, but I would definitely say plan to get your high school diploma. Um, and if you're contemplating going to school, now I'm not talking about any financials, anything like that. I would say that whatever your situation is, whatever you can afford, I would definitely say, depending on what career that you're wanting to choose, I would say definitely college is something that you should look at least. There's some areas of college that I definitely don't think college is worth it. Like, to me, IT used to be one of those, but I think what's happening now is that there's a high alert for cybersecurity stuff. And so for me in my niche area of IT, I definitely believe cybersecurity, or degree related to that is probably going to help you the most. I can't speak for other careers, but that's what I would say about IT related things. And I would say, it the pushes for not having the skills to last past Armageddon. There's no need to have skills because Armageddon is coming. So if you're looking at this video, that is something that you're going to have to really ask yourself, right? Do you really believe in that or not, right? Because the push is always going to be, you don't need all these skills because you're going to be resurrected, or if you die, you're going to be resurrected, and there's no need for all that, right? So you need to make a choice on whether or not you believe it at all. But if you're already of age, and you're being told that it's frowned upon or you're being looked down on because you want to better yourself, then again, another choice that you have to make. But I definitely think that there is a path for being able to go to college and still be a witness, right? Like if you're still wanting to be a witness, there's definitely a path, right? Again, once you start critically thinking about a lot of the things that you're learning, you're probably going to question other stuff in the religion, and then that's where you're probably going to come to a crossroads. Um, I'm trying to think of like support networks or like other resources to help you. Um, but I mean, obviously in our situations as Jehovah's Witnesses, there's not a lot of I won't say not a lot of help or people that could help, but I think that the support is going to be very limited because if you went and go if you went and asked somebody that's actually in the religion about what you should do as far as college, you're going to get probably 80% of the same answer. Um, and so I think that when it comes to schooling, I think that the majority of the decision is going to rely on what you actually believe in, versus what the society says. Now, society, as far as I can tell from looking at recent information, is not saying no outright. Um, but your conscience will definitely weigh on you if you choose something that you regret, or you may choose to go to college and you may see that other things may decline spiritually because you're starting to learn. You may get a different group of friends and you could go down a different path, right? So all that has to be taken in consideration. Again, I'm not saying you should do it. Actually, no. I am. I am saying that you should get education because it's important. Um, so, yes. Uh, what I will say, if I were to summarize this, because I wanted to kind of keep this short, what I will say is if you had to take away a couple of things from anything I've said, I think that one is you should have an education. You should invest in your education if you're able to financially. Um, Three, I think you should really sit down. Like if you're a young person, sit down with your parents and probably discuss, if you already have not, what their feelings are about you going to get higher education as it relates to being a witness, and see how they feel, right? Because ultimately, you're gonna have to live with your parents, or if you go off site, you're gonna have to deal with that, and probably probably gonna need to help you pay for college, right? Also, so I would say if you're a young person, I would definitely say talk to your parents. If they're adamant about not being able to go to college, then you really need to think about what your priorities are going to be. Obviously, if you're under 18, you have to live by your parents' rules, right? So there's that. If you're obviously above 18, you can make your own choices as how you see fit. But as somebody that has been in the religion and has survived being out for 20 years and looking back now where I could have gone to college complete, and now I would definitely have chosen to go to college. Um, and so I definitely think that there's some advantages to going to college, to getting that critical thinking on and progressing in knowledge, right? So um, I think that was kind of like the short bit that I wanted to talk to you guys about. I do have other topics that I want to talk about, but this has kind of been heavy on my mind. And, I thank you for watching. And if you have any, actually, you know what? I want to make this open. So I want to hear you guys' comments and feelings about how you were raised as Jehovah's Witness as far as school. Did you guys have to overcome being labeled uh, as being, I guess, not repentant, but a little bad person because you wanted to go to college? I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about that. Again, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you feel that this is beneficial. Thanks.